Ladies and gentlemen, it has been far too long since you've last seen anything of this series. Well, I'm here to tell you, it's back. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. It is time to get Season 7 of the NNSCRA Marvel Studios Cup Series up, running, and ready to fire on all cylinders. I'm Levi McIntyre, the voice of the NNSCRA Marvel Studios Cup Series, here to welcome you to Daytona Speedweek, where the entire week is going to be filled with Daytona 500 preparations leading up to the Daytona 500 later this week. Now, for the first time ever, no Daytona 500 qualifying. We're only going to be doing dual races after the Bud Shootout, which, by the way, this is the Budweiser Shootout that we're getting ready to do. 15 laps, short, sweet, to the point here at Daytona, with 25 drivers that are returning this season that got poles during Season 6. So, yes, the Budweiser Shootout's first here tonight. Then on Wednesday, it's going to be the Gatorade Duels, where how the field's going to be determined for the duels. I'm going to do a random name drawing to determine who's going to be in what duels and so on and so forth. And that will basically determine the starting lineup for the Daytona 500, which will be this Friday. So keep an eye out for everything coming this week in terms of Daytona Speedweek and Marvel Studios Cup Series stuff. But first, it's Budweiser Shootout time. 15 laps, as I said. It's going to be short, sweet, to the point racing with 25 drivers. And let's take a look at how that starting lineup looks. So starting dead last in this race is going to be Jay Jefferson. But it doesn't matter where you start. It's all about where you finish. But the top 10 starting lineup for tonight, Jonathan Zorleen is on the pole for this race. Starting next to him is James Shelley. Row 2 is Matt McIntyre and the defending series champion and the previous Rookie of the Year, Rob Evans. Row 3, Charles Sanford and Cole Baker. Row 4, James Qualls, Caleb Kilburn. And then row 5, Joshua Sekuli and Jessica Shelton. With that said, and also as a little cool cosmetic feature we're going to be doing from now on, you may have seen it in the previous IRSA race at Bristol this past week, but we are going to be using brand new information bars. For the top is the race info, the bottom is basically all my social media stuff. You can go follow me or subscribe and what have you. But without further ado, let's get to the command to fire engines for the Budweiser Shootout at good old Daytona.
Drivers, start your engines.
So all 25 drivers are now on the racetrack to get their one pace lap in. Now, we didn't get to see this for those of you who watched the IRSA special events that were going on in between during the off season for Season 7 of Marvel Studios Cup. We added a new change that's actually going to carry over to the Marvel Studios Cup Series, and that is going to be no more double file restarts. So we're going to see at some point this season, if we ever have an issue where we have lapped cars and the caution comes out, I'm going to be curious to see for the first time how that's going to work in terms of where the lapped cars would have to start or restart after the caution had come out. But don't know if we're going to get that for sure here in this race, but you never know. But yes, all 25 drivers rolling on the track, and this is going to be a fun, exciting 15-lap event to get people prepared for Season 7. Pace car should be pulling into pit road any time, and there he goes. So, ladies and gentlemen, you know what that means. That's right. Boogity, 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 let's go racing. Jonathan Zorling, it looked like he was going to get passed for the lead off of turn 4, but managed to get the outside line to stick and beat out his teammate Matt McIntyre to lead that first lap. In fact, as I noticed, Curtis McIntyre Racing actually has quite an advantage in this race. Every driver for that team, I believe, is in this race, to my recollection. We got Zorling in the 41, Sakuli in the 00, McIntyre in the 14, and DJ Curtis in the 33, who's a little bit towards the back in the middle of in the middle line. But Jonathan Zorling going to lead another lap as he's just trying to block every single line possible. But as you already saw, I think it was Charles Sanford who got the wall off of turn 2 in the previous lap. Yeah, that is going to be a thing. If you're way too high up on the racetrack and you come off of turn 2 with not the best of momentum, you may scrape that outside safer barrier, and I think James Qualls may have done that himself. But Zorling may have the lead, but here comes Caleb Kilburn in the 99 to try and take that position away. But yeah, pretty much everyone in this race are veterans and legends of this channel that are going at it for these 25 laps. 15 laps, excuse me. Caleb Kilburn led that lap, but it's 3 wide for the lead. Carson Gum on the bottom, Dylan Jacobs in the middle, and Caleb Kilburn up high. But it looks like Carson Gum is going to get the advantage and take the position for himself. And, Kilburn kind of got that safer barrier a little bit, but he's still going relatively well. But we may have some new challengers for the lead, as here comes Jake Rogers, who thought about retiring after Season 6 was over, but decided to come back here for Season 7 to run for Kamikaze Racing. But now we got a new leader, and that's Jay Jefferson, who just went by the car he drove in the previous season, as Jefferson actually moves to a new team called the Kyle Racing Corporation, and his teammate and boss, so to speak, Kyle Matthews in the 42, he's now up here trying to get to the lead, as Cole Deaver in the number 8, returning to Michael Norman Motorsports, has the race lead for now, as it's single file in the top 5 or 6 or so, but that could all change in an instant. As I'm looking around, and I'm not sure why the pack's gotten a little bit spread out a little bit. I feel like perhaps somebody got the wall off of turn 2, and that's what caused all this. But no need to fear for everyone. They can easily get back up here as they're still in the pack. Just a few car lengths separating one another in certain places. But Cole Deaver currently leading, Kyle Matthews right on his tail, but he just has no draft help at the moment to try and make a pass, as is one of his teammates, Jay Jefferson's up here trying to get to the 42 to try and push him ahead. But speaking of Curtis McIntyre Racing, Joshua Sakuli, who's moved to a different number instead of the number 10. No, actually, now that I recall, there's only one driver for Curtis McIntyre Racing that's not in this race, and that's rookie Ryan Acosta in the 10 car. We'll see him this Wednesday in the Gatorade Duels. As Sakuli moved to the 00, running the classic Junior Johnson Budweiser paint scheme that I actually made myself. Happy to see that car out there on the racetrack. Quite a few of these schemes I've actually made myself that I'm really happy to see, like Jordan Forbes, who I see coming up on the bottom in the 77 in that Yoshi's Island striped scheme that I created. But right now you got Michael Norman Motorsports teammates up here at the front, Cole Deaver in the 8 and Chris Dollarton in the 83. Chris Dollarton in the Nationwide Insurance number 83 car, to no shock to anyone. Jordan Forbes, on the other hand, he had a very abysmal Season 6 and won the World Rider cars all the way back here. James Qualls, Jake Rogers, Carson Gum, Charles Sanford, and Rafael LeDuc have lost the draft. Not sure what happened. I feel like because Turn 2 has proven to be a bit challenging for some drivers who are running the top lane on the racetrack. Feel like maybe that's causing some problems for some drivers, and that also caused that separation. Tough break for these guys, as they are well a ways back from the lead pack now. Another new contender, Melissa Alexander, who's a co-owner of her own team with her husband Joey Parkhill, Zev Bellringer Enterprises, because they both love Zev Bellringer just like I do, but they are in close association with Average Joe Enterprises, which is Caleb Kilburn's team, who's in the 99 car. Matt McIntyre in the 14's now got a full head of steam as he's about to try and take the race lead for himself. And then one other thing I completely forgot to mention, this is basically going to be Ford versus Chevy this season, so I'm going to actually do manufacturer points at the end of Season 7 to see which manufacturer came out on top throughout Season 7, and Matt McIntyre just wasn't very fast off of Turn 4 and couldn't take the lead, as Melissa Alexander holds on to the lead for him now, but right behind her is Dylan Jacobs in that 78 Kamikaze Games Chevrolet for Kamikaze Racing. But we got some more new contenders getting up here. Dylan Young in the 2, who we haven't talked about all night, followed right behind them by the defending series champion Rob Evans. Melissa Alexander trying to do the Jonathan Zorline route and trying to block every lane on track. Somebody's on the apron up ahead. That's Joey Parkhill in the 38. I don't know how he's making that work, but I don't know if something's wrong or he got forced down there and he had to let a bunch of people go, but he's blended back in, although he's going about 4 miles per hour slower than the drivers up ahead. So let's see if Parkhill can blend back in and get back up there, and he's going to easily get the suck up in the draft to get back into the pack. So lucky break for the 38 of Joey Parkhill, as his wife, Melissa Alexander, leads the race still. Something is wrong with Jake Rogers' car as he's coming into pit road, and I see damage. There's actually some damage on Rafael Leduc and Jake Rogers. I almost wonder if they collided against one another and got into the wall, but I guess if they didn't spin, that's why we're not under caution. But yeah, very, very bizarre set of circumstances for the 62 and the 87, who are looking to get some momentum building going into the duels this Wednesday. But when we cross the line, it's going to be 3 laps to go, and Kyle Matthews is back up here at the front of the field as he's looking to try and gain momentum for himself going into the duels as well. But here comes his teammate Jay Jefferson, who got a huge push from behind by Chris Dollerton. How about Joey Parkhill, who was almost wrecked running on the apron a couple of laps ago, and now he's up here about ready to go for the race lead as he's up in 3rd. But that outside line seems to be the line to be as far as the straightaways, considering the amount of cars that were running the outside. Now some of them have went to the bottom. Wow, and what a power move for Chris Dollerton as he's trying to make a move to get the lead. He led at the line as it's 2 laps to go, but Joey Parkhill, with help from Zachary Fitzwater in the 12, trying to get up there, and now Parkhill takes the race lead, at least for the time being. So you got Fords running there, 1, 2, 3 on the bottom, but for different teams. And Zachary Fitzwater left the 38 hanging for a moment, but he's trying to get that bottom to work, and he's there underneath of the 38, so Zachary Fitzwater now trying to take the race lead. But Cole Deaver, who led a couple of laps a little while ago, he's up here into the picture as well. But we're coming off of turn 4 as the white flag is going to be displayed for the Budweiser Shootout. White flag is out for Zachary Fitzwater. Fitzwater, he just needs to hold off the field and he'll be good, but never mind. Seth Cole in the 98 for Backmarker Motorsports, who we haven't talked about at all in this race. He's come out of nowhere and is now taking the race lead. Dylan Jacobs in the 78 right on his tail, and then teammate to Seth Cole, James Shelley right behind, and Rob Evans, the defending series champion, got blocked, got the door shut on him by Dylan Jacobs, but it looks like it's going to be all Seth Cole. Coming out of turn number 4, Rob Evans trying to make a move on the 78, but it doesn't matter. Checkered flag waving. Seth Cole wins the Budweiser Shootout at Daytona to kick off Daytona Speedweek. Really good racing up here at the front pretty much the entire way through, despite some cars losing the draft and even a couple of cars having sustained damage. But nonetheless, Seth Cole kicking off Daytona Speedweek with a bang by winning the Budweiser Shootout. So he's going to have momentum going into the Gatorade Duels this Wednesday. But let's take a look at the rest of the top 10. Dylan Jacobs, solid performance in the second position. I thought he would have made a move going into turn 3, but just couldn't quite make it stick. Meanwhile, Rob Evans was close there at the end, but still gets a solid performance in the third spot. Melissa Alexander, great run in the fourth position, and then Jonathan Zorline rounding out the top 5 with Joshua Sakuli finishing in the 6th position. Great run for him. Zachary Fitzwater with a solid run in 7th. Jessica Shelton, who we didn't talk about at all, finishes strong in 8th. Kyle Matthews with a solid performance in 9th. And then James Shelley rounding out the top 10. Then there's your top 20, and then the rest of the field. And actually, Jake Rogers had to take his car over the wall, so yeah, it sucks. What happened with him and LeDuc is very, very bizarre, but beside the point, tough break for Jake Rogers. Maybe the duels will give him more confidence. But nonetheless, Seth Cole wins the Budweiser Shootout. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the Budweiser Shootout, but we've got plenty more to come this week for Daytona Speedweek. We got the duels this Wednesday, and then the Great American Race this Friday, the Daytona 500. As I'm going to present to you Seth Cole's burnout that he performed after doing some Victory Lane stuff. But until then, thank you guys for watching. I will see you this Wednesday for the Budweiser Shootout. This is Levi McIntyre signing off.